All right, welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. We got our guy Schlegs, fresh, hot, and ready down in Jayville, hanging out here with you. Super pumped for another terrific show that we're putting together today, Schlegs. So very, very excited for that and everything that we've got going here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and very, very excited for this edition of the show. Going to be joined by Bill Bender here in the second segment. Dive on in with that.
Richard.
It's a Thursday. We're going to talk about yesterday, Schlegs, we did the defense. Today, the offense, what you ultimately want to see there, and lean in on that a little bit. Got some black stripe alerts. Got a lot of different stuff that's going to be swirling around. I want to start with this, though, Schlegs, because I'm trying to think where it was. It's at Coastal Carolina. We have that, Pat. Did I throw
Petey Pablo? No, that's North Carolina. But it's all in North Carolina. But anyway.
But about the free food at the concession, Schlegs.
Yeah, Coastal. It's the green one, guys.
So,
it's the green one right below Caleb.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina, they're going to be giving away free food at their football games. Now, talk about it's hard trying to get in-person attendance at football games because everything is so good now at home. Your in-home viewing is tremendous. And so this is, saw this via the Pat McAfee show. It's pretty sweet. Pat was talking about this. You go there. I don't know what the limits are on this, but let's watch and see, take a gander of what it could be. Imagine being in the Woody Hayes and getting some nice free food to fill your gullet.
What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
Yeah.
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it. Free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks? Whew.
And
all
a hot
free?
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free too?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Yeah.
So, Schlegs, I think it was you can get 4 items per concession visit for free. Now, I don't know if they sell alcohol there. I'm guessing you probably can't do that simply due to like liquor laws and everything else. But if you get 4 items, dude, you can get some nachos, a hot dog, maybe some popcorn, and then ultimately a drink. Like, think how great that would be.
Man. You know what? 4 concessions, 4 things per visit. I think they're trying to think about all the different possibilities you could have. Like he just was naming nachos, hot dogs. I mean, I'm just going to get 4 hot dogs every time. Then I'm going to go up and get 4 nachos. Then I'm going to go up and, what? Honestly, the real thing to ponder here, everybody, is what do you start with first? You just get 4 drinks taken to your buddies, right? And then right behind you in line is another buddy that comes in and gets 4 hot dogs. Boom, he's out. Next buddy comes in, 4 nachos. Boom, he's out. Then you're like, maybe there's another buddy. Boom, he gets 4 popcorns or maybe some sweet treats like some peanut M&Ms or something like that, and he just gets 4 of those guys. The possibilities are endless. I definitely know that you're going to be able to start the game. This is something, it might be a little bit counterintuitive, giving all this stuff away for free, because then is there a limit? Are they just going to have unlimited supplies? What does their supply chain look like? And also, when is it going to run out? Because then if it's all like, hey, this is all we got, and we're going to give it away till it runs out, who's going to be in the seats for the opening kickoff? They're just going to keep cycling back through this thing. Like, I want the crowd hype. I mean, they got Enter Sandman up there at Virginia Tech. Like, I don't know what they do at Coastal Carolina, but you want to have some juice. Where is all the juice? They're at the concession stands getting free stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm with you, Schlegs. I get it 100%. I love it.
Bring the people, but.
So at Scioto Country Club, where we belong, they do a speaker series, and it's like the first Tuesday or second Tuesday of the month. And with it, they have a buffet. And so they'd have cool people like business leaders. They had this guy come through talking about World War II history. There's a show, I believe, on HBO or Netflix called The Liberator, wrote an unbelievable story about it. It's the most diverse unit in World War II for Americans as far as like culturally and ethnically. And they basically did the D-Day version, like the march. It's basically like Band of Brothers, except they came through Italy. And so he goes up there and talks. And my son loves history. Unbelievable thing. I'm sitting there watching it. He went and spoke at Upper Langston High School and speaks at some schools. And he's British, talking about how American exceptionalism is what saved the world from the fascists, and how it's like, because you didn't have to come save us. We were Great Britain. We were on an island. We're getting hammered. You guys would have been fine. But America chose to then ultimately not only, liberate the Pacific, but also, rid the world of fascism. And so how great that was. So he's like preaching that. But while I'm there, like Ryan Miller, I'm talking to, Ryan Miller's son, or their kids are the same age Schlegs. And you're a big believer, this, like getting young men, like teenage boys to gain weight is hard. And so we go there, Schlegs, they got the limitless buffet. And it's like, at some point, do we bring you to the speaker series? It's like $22 for you to go sit there, but you're going to probably eat $50 worth of food. Like, this is a 3-plate situation. They've got, they've got chicken, they've got, usually some beef, they've got mashed potatoes, they got vegetables, and they got a lot of desserts. And so let's just load on up on each category. And you've got like 2 hours just to sit there and engorge yourself. And let's start sacking some calories.
They're just gonna be like this, just pass out. I will tell you this. This was my high school routine. Every single day of the week, I had a place that had a deal. Whether it was Taco Bell 10-pack, and I'd buy 10 tacos and a Mexican pizza, and they had, remember those little twisty deals that were like cinnamon twists, I think is what they were called. That was my order. It was literally like $6. All right. Then I had Arby's 5 for $5. Guess what I do? 10. And then I'd stack them and I'd make 5 doubles. And it was quite delightful. And again, 3 Arby packets per sandwich. I need minimum 15 Arby packets. Okay. Then I had Golden Corral. They had Luby's. There was a place called Luby's in Dallas, Bob. I don't know if it was there when you were there, but it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. And I say buffet as in buffet because I wanted to get extra beefy, and I just like saying buffet, just like I like saying toilet. But the fact is, every single day I knew how to go get calories on the cheap. That's just one way that you got there. Now it's how do you think outside the box? And as they start driving around, finding those those local places where they can go and just spend a couple bucks. All right, I know it's 2025, so probably more like 10 to 20, but you got to find those cheap places where you can make it, because I don't know if you have to start going to Costco, just buying in bulk.
Absolutely. Load on up, Schlegs. That's what it's all about. And so that's a nice, fun way to start it. We got the spring game coming up. I encourage everybody to get out there for Ohio
90,000, let's get 105.
Is that the goal? I don't know if we have 105 seats anymore, Schlegs. I think
102.5.
Yeah, I think that might be more along the lines. But it's supposed to be sunny, it's supposed to be nice. Let's start with this. I mean, we got Bill coming up. We did the defense at the end of the show yesterday. Now looking at the offense.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to see from the offense on Saturday?
Yeah.
What did you want to have accomplished, and where do we need to be? Because you probably won't see it all, obviously, because it's going to be the spring game, but you will see some great nuggets.
I'd say number one would be the continuity of the new offensive line, especially where you had the mass of the guys coming back were in the interior, and you brought in outside help and also competition on the outside. What does that look like? Are you able to establish the run? Are you able to protect the quarterback? Because we know what the defense is going to do. We know the skill level that is on the edge of the defense. How are you going to be able to handle that to allow your quarterbacks to have time to go through the progressions and actually deliver a football? But that is also set up, predicated upon how you run the football. And when you got a young guy coming in and Peoples that hasn't had a lot of stuff, a lot of carries, you got a transfer from West Virginia. You got some backup guys, old Williams, Sam Williams-Dixon, my guy. There's a plethora of dudes in the room. But how are you able to establish the run against the defense? Because that's the thing. That's just like hat for a hat. We're going to go run the football. What does that look like? And then from there, throwing the football, one thing I do not worry about at all is this wide receiver room and their routes and displacements. I don't worry about that. The one thing you can watch is how do the younger guys in the wide receiver room, how do they block on the perimeter? Because last year, I think that was one of the things that they did at a very, very high clip. And the last thing I'm going to say is I'm interested to see how they utilize all the tight ends like we did a year before. Is it different? Is it not? From an offensive perspective, with Brian Harline now being the coordinator and maybe going to some things, what does the totality of the offense look like compared to where it was last year with Chip Kelly? What about you?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think the thing is, I think you'll see a lot of vanilla stuff. I don't know if you'll see the tight end package. You know, from watching practice, like they've got versatility in their personnel groups. I think both Kazmarik's nicked up a little bit, like he hasn't practiced, a ton, and so like that's obviously one of your lead tight ends, big, strong blocking guy. I'm curious to see, like you said, those tackles. That's what they need to see. Ethan out there on the right side, he just lost his black stripe. How does he look? Daniels over there on the left. How does he look? Austin Servel's been playing some right tackle. What's he going to be able to do? I feel like on the inside, they're good. Some of the young receivers, we talked about it. Quincy Porter, like very talented guy.
Quincy.
What they're able to do. And then so I think they're going to get a lot of run with these quarterbacks. That's what I don't know why they wouldn't want to go to the spring game. Everybody wants to know, how do the quarterbacks look? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. What do they see? Like, you're going to see those guys. Now, they're not going to be live. You're going to let those quarterbacks get hit. Ryan's done some live stuff with them. But you're going to want to go out there and you'll be able to see what those quarterbacks look like and see for yourself. Can they throw? It's going to be a pretty nice day. I don't think it's going to be very windy, 55, sunny. How efficient do they look? This is kind of their first foray into some game reps. And then even Tavian St. Clair, like he's a young dude. This is his first time, playing big time ball. You got, probably, hopefully 90,000+ people there. Like, you're going to do some good, you're going to do some bad. How do you bounce back from that? And how are you able to get it done? Because I think you'll see some of those top line guys, but JJ and Carnell Tate, you'll see some of it, and then you'll back those guys off. And then it's like, okay, probably a little more Brandon Innis, then you back him off. And then the second crew of receivers who are still really good, what do those guys look like? How are they able to operate? You're not going to see obviously the in-depth of the game plan, but can you run the football? They'll do some live stuff. They're going to do some live stuff with the running back Schlegs. How are they going to be able to run the football? Like that's a big piece, especially I want to see how they look on the inside.
Yep. And Bob, it's timing up front. Like they had that. You had two veteran running backs that had a lot of carries. And also, one thing that they did not have was turnovers. And in a game like this, that what you're seeing is, are they learning how to protect the football and still run very aggressively? Because one of the best things that I thought Ryan did as a team last year was teaching the guys how to practice not full contact.
Yeah.
Because why? You're playing a 16 game season now, just like in the NFL. Like, you have to be safe. But now, what does that look like when you actually start putting hats on the ball? And are they able to still protect that from the running back perspective? So again, something else to be able to watch. That's why you go. But you're absolutely right about the younger wide receivers, though, Bob. I'm excited just to see the depth. And then when you guys go through, it's okay to nitpick and see, hey, man, they don't have that number one and number two group looked really good. Well, what about the threes? Is that an area that they go in the portal? You guys can think about that kind of stuff. Like, that's fair. Think about what they're going to do next, because it's coming up, especially with Mark Pantoni just getting that contract. You go be him for a day.
Get to be Mark for a day, Schlegs. How great does that ultimately sound? All right. Well, that's it for this segment. We got Bill Bender coming up on deck. But first, I want to tell all the parents and athletes out there about our friends over at Export. Protect what matters most. Trusted by professional athletes. Designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards. They're scientifically tested to absorb those big hits to protect both your grill and your brain. Export mouth guards. They've got 3 layers of advanced protection. They have a patented use of carbon fiber. They 3D print that thing right to your grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication. So you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby. That way you can save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Bill Bender coming up next. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now we are pleased to welcome in our guy, Mr. Bill Bender, to the program.
Richard.
As always, we got our great guy, Bill Bender. Unfortunately, we had some pre-tape stuff on Tuesday. I know it's been 3 days now, Bill, but just want to kind of pick your brain about the Final Four, what we saw. We get shot real chalky there at the end, but I think the final 3 games are all really good, especially those final 2. I mean, they were good down to the last drop.
Well, your boy got a better look at halftime than Houston did at the end of the game. Let's start there. I saw that buzzer beater you posted on X. Just put him in, right? He'll sink it. That was a great shot, by the way. I heard you guys talking about it yesterday or Tuesday. I can't believe Houston didn't get a look at the end or something going toward the basket. I mean, we could talk about any number of things: the collapse, the way that the officials kind of changed the game. There's a question for you guys. Were you ever in a football game where they changed how it was called from the first half to the second half in the trenches? I'm sure you were, but that's how it looked to me. It's like it almost like Houston couldn't adjust that they changed the way that they were calling the game. When you have 4 fouls one half, 26 in the second half, that tells you they definitely changed the style of officiating. That was one of the biggest takeaways for me.
Well, part of that, Bill, is that you have to adjust to the style that they are. Like we always talked about that you're never going to let a ref decide the outcome of a game. So just like a strike zone, right? Like there's times in the inning they're calling it really tight, then they open it up, or vice versa. Like that's just the nature of the beast. You have to be able to adjust, and they didn't. Off the top of my head of a game, the only thing defensively, Bobby obviously rushed the passer significantly more than I did, so he could probably talk on that. But it would be how do they call pass interference? Because I'm really going to try to go up and get right at the 5 yards on a tight end or a running back as much as I possibly can. And what do they call? Some games just like you can't even sneeze on the guy. Other games you can definitely hit him. So that would be where it is for me. Bob, what do you have on that?
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to get a feel for it. I mean, that's especially with the PI, like holding, I mean, all those different things, regardless of what sport you're playing. And it was interesting, Bill. It seemed like, when you were watching, Houston, the battling Florida was trying to get tough. Like they're an offensive team. They score a lot. And it seemed like it was impacting them early in the game. And then all of a sudden that thing started to flip and maybe the shots didn't fall as much for Houston. I feel for Kelvin Sampson, had a great opportunity, a great chance, but it seemed like Florida was the better team in the last 10 minutes of that game. And they just kept kind of chopping wood to be able to ultimately get it done. I'm sure they've built a good program there with Kelvin Sampson. I'm sure they'll be in the mix, but that seemed like the same thing with Duke. I mean, when you have a big lead like that down to the end, it's got to be a bitter pill, Bill, for those guys to swallow, knowing how hard it was to get there.
Yeah, the Duke Houston game, I'll remember this for 2 reasons. One, the way that Houston came back, obviously, and that sequence of events. And I mean, we talked about this Monday where I thought that game really changed when they called a timeout when they couldn't just inbound the ball. And John Shire was telling his guys, we've got to get open, and Houston can get after you. And they got after it in the last 5 minutes. Whenever I watch a game with Grant, I always tell him, and it's not perfect, I said, if you're up by 10 or more with 5 minutes left in a basketball game, you should never lose. But it's not perfect, and I know a shot can go in. But when a team is up 10 and finds a way to lose, but the reason Houston got back in that, at that 5 minute mark, that defense really locked down. And, then I'll remember it for after the game. I went down in the basement and we had a little bit of flooding from all of the rain over the weekend. So there was some boxes that needed to be moved around late on Saturday night into Sunday morning. So, but fortunately everything looks good now. And I'm telling you guys, man, did we get enough rain or what last weekend? It was crazy.
Yeah, I'm good with the rain. Everything's starting to grow. I got to get out there and mow. That's a good solid 6 hours of some Blackie Miles and some Red Man, some country music. But let's flip gears because I'm good with basketball, Bill. I'm good with that. I know you love basketball, and you're so lanky, long arms and such, right? Just throwing it in my face. Where do you see Ohio State right now in this spring football? Everybody's talking quarterbacks, but I don't want to talk about quarterbacks. Let Bob do it. But what do you think? What is the one group that you're really looking at outside of that position that you are anxious to see in the spring game?
Well, I hate to repeat what you said, but I mean, the interior line is back now, right? Remember that was such a question mark late in the game that it became a strength late in the season? with Montgomery and those guys. So, how do the transfers fit in? And, I'll be honest, whenever I go to a spring game or watch a spring game, I probably don't watch the offensive line as much as I should. You'll watch the running backs too, a rebuilt running back room when you've got two guys that are going to get their names called in the NFL draft here in a couple weeks. And we're trying to figure out whether or not Travion Henderson or Quinshon's a first-round pick, probably second round on Quinshon. Who steps up? Donaldson, by the way, at West Virginia, I don't know why it stuck out. When I went to when the running backs were available a couple weeks ago, he was really good at West Virginia. And when they played Penn State 2 years ago, he was outstanding in that game. He's big. And I'm thinking, I wonder how he fits in that rotation because he has a lot of experience in that kind of offense that Ryan Day likes to run. So I think he's an interesting guy this year and want to see how he does.
It's interesting, Bill, because he's like big, he's physical, he's dropped a little bit of weight. I think kind of the only thing is like he doesn't have that crazy top end gear, which there's worse things in the world to not have. If you're going to be a good meat and potatoes guy and be able to ultimately move the chains, just in general, like, do you normally go to spring games? How many of these do you generally consume and watch? And like, how close of attention do you pay to them kind of around the country?
I'll have them all on DVR this week. Grant has a lacrosse game at 1. I'll check it out when I think we're going to actually go and watch the number 2 lacrosse team in the country on Saturday afternoon.
Let's
go watch them play Maryland.
But they're number 1, right? Maryland.
Are they? They're either one. Yeah, this should be a really good game. But we could talk about them in a couple weeks. I've got a good story idea there. Now, but when I get home, I'll put on the Ohio State spring game. I'll DVR some of the larger ones as we go. You want to you'll end up watching Michigan and a couple SEC schools and the teams that you think will make a difference. The thing with Ohio State spring games that I watch is, and I hate to circle back to it, Schlegs, but you're definitely going to watch the quarterbacks here, and particularly the first two in Julian Say and Lincoln Kienholz. And last year I went back and watched some of the reps from last year's spring game, and those guys weren't quite there yet. And what does Ryan Day always say? I know he talked about 4th and 2 against Texas, the toughest guy, but who protects the football? And you're going to watch which one of these guys is going to protect the football, make the right throws. I don't know if you guys got a better feel for it than I do, but I feel like this, when he says it's neck and neck, this isn't lip service to prevent a guy from transferring. I do think this is a real competition. And in these Ohio State spring games, it's probably not as glamorous as like Burrow versus Haskins versus Martell, but it's still a competition.
It really is. And everybody's like, it's done. He's just saying that. I go, listen, I've watched more practices than anybody not on the coaching staff or working at Ohio State. And, I always watch a lot of the defense, Bill. And then when there's a good ball thrown or something or a bad ball, and then I'll look back to see who it was. And did they get a good read? Was there pressure? All those different things. And both of the guys have done a good job at times. Both of them have been inconsistent. And that's what you kind of see with young guys who haven't played enough with everything. And so you're going to witness some of that and you're going to see some of those growing pains. But there's things that Lincoln's done really well. He had a good practice when people were there publicly. And so I think that opened some eyes for people that thought it was just a foregone conclusion that he would be the guy. And this isn't some lip service thing. I think Ryan would probably love to be able to come in and say, hey, I think it's this guy or that. I don't know if you could truly even handicap it now other than, dead even 1-to-1 for both guys, just what they're able to bring to the table. You mentioned, they've got Texas coming up, opening game this year. So there is no like wade into the water or anything like that. You've got to be ready to go. And so how does that change how you handle this spring game? Does it change how you handled spring practice? Does it change how you handle the fall if you're kind of uncertain at quarterback? And like Ryan, you have 8 new starters on defense and probably 3 or 4 on offense.
Where I think it'll make a bigger difference is in fall camp because, again, I'm trying to go back when you guys played, if you had like a blockbuster opener. And whenever I talk at coaches in July at media day and they have that big game to start the season, the general consensus answer you get across the board is, man, it heightens things. in August. We're ready to go because you're not opening up against, had they been opening against Grambling and then playing Texas, that flips that a little bit because you've got that week to wait and see. And we always hear coaches say you improve so much from week 1 to week 2. But this is Texas, and this is Arch Manning. And yes, they've lost some guys too, but that's going to be a high-level game right off the bat. And I would think it helps in some ways because you have to be on point, and you have to be in sync with whoever you're starting at quarterback and the receivers and the defense, because I know this is the easiest prediction I could possibly make for next year. The winner of that Texas-Ohio State game, their quarterback's going to be the Heisman frontrunner. They're going to be the number 1 team in the country heading into week 2, and they're definitely going to be the national championship favorite. That's how big the stakes of that early season game are.
Man, that's big. That's big time ball. And in our senior year, we had Miami of Ohio. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. And then we had Texas. Like, that was ours. Like, it went boom and boom, and it was like that was like the first one of those. Here's a question for you: what are you, from the coaching staff perspective? And I know the spring game is really hard. Let's just start with like week 1, and let's take out anybody that has a offensive defensive coordinator behind their name. What are you looking for as an improvement for Ohio State football going into this season compared to what they did in 2004 or 2024?
I was impressed with Billy Fessler at the availability a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Billy.
Because he's got a great name, right? So, he seemed, and just what he adds to that competition. And, I think one of the things he said that stood out is, they were talking about the pressure and can you handle being quarterback at Ohio State? And I never really thought about this. He said, well, we did that when we recruited these guys, right? Yeah. You make sure that they're able to handle the pressure of that position. And I can only imagine, walking down High Street, what these quarterbacks feel. Some of it celebrity, some of it Julian saying, when you're at Ohio State, the way your locker looks is judged. They judge everything, especially at that quarterback position. Yeah, and I'm sure your locker was perfect. But we do on the media, like when they let us in, there's 100+ media guys. So yeah, I think he's one guy I'm interested to see what he adds to that very talented quarterback room.
All right, we're here with the very talented Bill Bender of the Sporting News. We'll take a quick break. We're going to come back, talk a little about Will Howard, his draft prospects, and his little sit down with John Gruden and the Fired Football Coaches Association coming up next. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. We're here with our guy, Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Go check his stuff out on the Sporting News, and make sure you follow him on X at BillBender92. Bill, did you get a chance to watch Will Howard in his debut with John Gruden there on their Barstool show?
Yeah, I saw the clips. I haven't seen the entire interview, but man, he's such an interesting draft prospect to me. I'm actually working on our QB only mock draft at Sporting News. And it's not just who the Browns or what the Browns do at number 2. I'm really interested to see Will Howard and where he lands. I don't know if this is lazy or not. Most people are tying him to the Raiders because Chip Kelly's there. But does he push into day 2? Does he push into round 2? And, the 3 quarterbacks that I'm messing around with right now and trying to figure this out are the 3 on some level played at Ohio State: Will Howard, Kyle McCord, and Quinn Ewers. And I think those 3 guys are going to be tied together in their NFL careers a little bit based on their part at Ohio State. I know Ohio State fans will definitely, you'll look at them over the years, right? And be like, hey, Quinn played here for a year, or Kyle played here for a year. And, will be the first of those 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is.
Yeah, I'm just reading the chat. You guys are the best in the chat room. I agree with that, but when you look at the fits, and I'm happy that you're going to get in the weeds of this, because that's something that I don't want to do when it comes to the draft. But looking at Will Howard in the fit department, who needs – because my biggest takeaway was just his personality and like John Gruden said, like not a bobblehead, like gonna talk to you, like wants to be comfortable, is gonna work. He's a rally the troops type of guy. What organization do you feel that needs a quarterback also needs a touch of that? And I would say also a touch of competitiveness. And that really goes for all of our guys where they get drafted because they're all such high character guys, but it's primarily focused on Will Howard.
Okay, so 3 options here. The Raiders,
Okay, I like it.
The Raiders are one, obviously, with the Chip Kelly connection, and he could step in there, knows the offense, and with his size, his intangibles, I think he would be a great locker room guy there. Do we go the hometown route and Cleveland drafts him in the second round, not the first round, or they trade down and grab him later and ride that momentum there? Or, and I've seen this one as well, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to draft a first-round quarterback. I think they're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They could go Jackson Dart there, but do they wait? And what a torturous event that would be for Cleveland Browns fans if Will Howard somehow went to the Steelers, sat for a year or whatever, ends up playing there, much like Big Ben did, and just tortures Cleveland for 10 years. Sorry to bring up that scenario, but I do think Will Howard could fit and thrive in a place like Pittsburgh that's much like Ohio State, whether we like to say it or not, Ohio, the Steelers are a winning organization who drafts well.
100% they do. Bill, before we get you out of here, you put together a great piece on the Sporting News. Will Sayin start? Maybe some of the highlights of that, kind of a little foreshadowing to lure some people there to read it just like we did.
Well, no, I think, first of all, our graphics department does a really good job. That's a nice
they
agility in there. And, the article does focus a lot on the responsibility and is he built to handle playing at Ohio State? We do judge everything in Ohio. We judge where you're from, what you're wearing, where you eat. And I thought he handled the media session I went to very well. Seems personal. He knows what questions to answer and which ones not. I thought the funniest part was Tim May asked him about Brian Hartline's new offense, and he basically said, I'm not sure, as in, he knows the offense. He's not sure what he can tell the media on that one, and everybody laughed a little bit. So there's some personality there. Lincoln Kienholz is going to be an interesting person to watch. He got in the weight room, that's for sure. He put on about 20 pounds. So that is what we'll watch. But I think you get a little bit more on Julian, what Will Howard said, what Coach Fessler said, and we'll see how he does on Monday. And as I pointed out, I was like, didn't Joe Burrow wear that number? So you've got a 5-star quarterback in that number. It looks pretty good.
It really does, Bill. It looks tremendous. Well, it's a great article. Everybody go check it out on Sporting News. Give Bill a follow on X at BillBender92. Bill, thank you for some time today. We really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure having you on. And, we've got some more. You got lacrosse. And so it looks like the weather's starting to turn. I was sitting at my daughter's game yesterday, and it was getting a little rough outside. So hopefully we can get done with this bipolar spring weather here for Ohio in the spring.
I'm sure our cars just cross on 270 all the time, guys. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. That is the great Bill Bender. Make sure you guys check out his stuff, as he does a great job and so gracious to
put it in the chat, Bob. I put it in the chat.
Absolutely you did. I don't know what you put in the chat, Buckeyes. You did. Said, hey, let's get to that.
Support
all right.
Our guy, Richard.
Coming up next. Absolutely. We've got our guy coming up next. We've got headlines. We've got some interesting stuff, like some black stripe alerts, some silver bullets of the day. Find out what's happening to Buckeye practice here coming up next. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and excited here with our headlines. Headlines are sponsored by our friends over at Lake Spur Marketing. They're a full service agency, folks. built on trust, strategy, performance, the things you want to hear, the people you want to partner with. Lakespur team shields your team from the outside noise, the cold callers. They want to let you do what you do best, which is run your business. You don't have to market it. They've got more than 100 years of marketing experience. So let Lakespur eliminate the waste and they deliver on budget, which is big, Schleiss, because that time and budget can run wild for you. They don't chase clicks. They build partnerships. Lakespur Marketing, the proof is in their partners. So go check them out, a proud partner of the Bobby Carpenter Show here. Get you smarter, Schleiss. They'll take care of your business the way they take care of all of their partners. Now, all right, Schleiss, we got this for you. We got a black stripe alert. Your guy, CJ Barnett, former Buckeye safety, but now looks like Buckeye linebacker. Ethan Iwana. I feel like I'm close in that. I'm butchering.
Hey, you know what? Hey, charge it to win. But you're right. CJ. Hey, CJ's been working out with
Ethan
Nate, by the way. Yeah.
Ethan O is going to be good enough for me, but he's a monster dude, beefy right there in the middle. Been getting some tackle work coming up out of, was he at Rice, I believe?
Yeah, he was at Rice.
And so
super juicy guy. Look at the size of his skull.
He's got a big meat box head. So like is he a
he
four-sider?
Huh?
I don't know if he's a four-sider quite. Luke Montgomery's looking like a four-sider. He's got a lot of beef on his face. You know what a four-sider is, Spikes?
No. Like is it like a box? Like it's just like a big box, like a four-sider?
I say your body. It's like Cardell Jones. I go, bro, you got a four-sider. It means your face touches all four sides of your your driver's license picture. You used to have a four-sider, Schlegs.
I did.
Like it's like the little yellow ball head that you put inside a square, and it's so circular that it touches them all. You've thinned it down. Now your face is more lean. It's like an oval. Our guy Ethan O, pretty beefy face. Luke Montgomery, pretty beefy face. It's okay. That's all good. So big news there because you're never going to get a chance to be a starter until you get your black stripe removed. So the earlier you can get that done, obviously, the better.
Yeah, I tell you what. There's another thing on him. Somebody in the chat was like, "Man, these guys look like they all get in the weight room." And yeah, that's because
they do. They do hang out and take naps.
It was a great comment. It was a great comment because they're working, right? And like it's evident. And I believe Ethan came in and lost like 36 pounds or something that I read.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere in the notes of our show of just like, guys going in and doing work. And that's also, again, when you talk about the human performance that is at Ohio State under Mickey Marotti and Caitlin and dietitian and all these different things that we do, right? You can't manage where you can't measure. It's like, bro, here's where you are. Here's where we think that you need to be in order to be elite at your position. Let's work on getting there. And then consequently, you also get stronger and you're putting on muscle mass, losing fat. Boom. Now you can play longer and harder. And kudos to him, though, because coming in transfer, like, everybody that transferred, raise their hands. Boom. Me, right? So on this show, it's just me, Bob. You were already there. And when you come in, like, you got to earn that respect. And that respect happens first in the weight room. Will Howard talked about it, how he wanted on the John Gruden deal. Now, he just wanted to come in and just, like, work and then build authentic relationships with guys and not just come in and just start barking orders or whatever, do it that way. And Ethan is somebody that did that, and you see that on the offensive line. It's just people that go out there and handle their business, gets their black stripe removed. Good for him, and we need to see it happen.
Need to make it happen, Captain. And then we got our silver bullet of the day coming to you from BIA. Pretty excited about this. They've had a number of guys from D-line. I don't know if they've had, maybe Sonny was one of the first silver bullets of the day, but a lot of D-line. Arvell was in there, but you've got my guy Bryce West out of Cleveland Glenville. And I think a lot of Bryce, man. He's incredibly gifted athletically, super fast.
Yeah,
and he's a pretty mature kid. And he's starting to make some plays, man. So that's really exciting because they've got him playing some inside, playing a little outside. He's a beefy dude, and so he can do some special things, but excited to potentially see him do some stuff this year. And the fact that he was silver bowl of the day, Schlegs, he's made some really flash plays. You're thinking, wow, like, this dude's got it. And so hopefully he keeps that consistency.
Yeah, Jalen McClain was another silver bowl of the day that we didn't mention earlier, Bob. So, like, the DBs are getting some love.
I did. I think you just weren't paying attention.
Oh, shit. Yankees. All right. Anyways, the one thing I don't think we have seen, though, is an interior D lineman. So
that's that next step. That's what everyone's looking at. So you've got the secondary. You saw Arvell Reese. You know what you're getting with Sonny. It wouldn't surprise me if Peyton Pierce, like he's probably right on the cusp of getting one of these.
Yes, he is.
But those interior defensive line, like those are the dudes that every time you go out, you know they need to show out.
Yep. And that's, again, guys, like what is the beauty of this? And we'll probably talk about it later in the show, but competitive excellence, good on good. And the one area on the defense that you're actually looking at is going against the best part of the offensive line, meaning as far as people coming back, like veteran guys. So you want that good on good. You want somebody to rise up to the occasion. Guess what, man? Like Poof David Copperfield, they got one more practice and then they got a spring game. We'll see what happens, especially when they go grade out, like who was a champion, right? Because again, what are they looking for? We talked about it yesterday. Consistency.
Absolutely. All right, Schlegs. We talked about Bryce West. He's got a pretty chunky face now, not crazy meaty. We were talking
Great
about
smile, awesome. Remember he came in, he had a shoulder injury, Bob.
He did, and he's worked really hard. And he's a thick dude, but he's really fast. And so, like I said, if you can learn it, man, they'll get you out there. So he's really worked hard, very diligent, mature young man. So excited to see him take those next steps. This was part of it. I was talking about four-siders before, Schlegs, the face that fits in there. Look at Anthony Rodriguez. That I don't know if that's a four-sider, bro, but you look like you're trying to do your best Zach Thomas impersonation right there.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Hair.
Look at it.
I mean, that's what Zach. I've got pictures of Zach with that same haircut and a V-neck with that big, thick, meaty cylinder that you've got.
Look at the size of those traps there. I mean, that was like sophomore year in high school. And you know what's great about that picture? I don't know if you can't really tell from how it looks online.
1999.
Oh no, that was 98, 99. So that was my junior year.
Wow.
And here's the deal. That was a sweater vest. Notice that there's no shirt under there. And it's in Texas. So it's like, there you can see it on the side. Yeah. Boom. Just straight out, just skin hanging out of there. But I will say this, though. Look at that trap. Look at those traps and that thick cylinder right there. That's a good-looking young man.
Enough of the headlines here. We got tailgate talk coming up next. Oh, Schleich, what are we going to do with you, man? Just such a meaty version of yourself. And, you're still there with a lot of different things. We got some stuff in the chat. Can't go wrong with the
hair looking good. I've been hitting that Spartan up. I actually saw like a small little hair growing there, Bob. I was like, oh, man, this stuff's working, baby.
That's why I've been using.
We're going to get them on the show.
I've been using Spartan for about 2 months now, 2.5 months. We're getting that 3 month where they said it's supposed to be working between 3 and 6 months. To get that rolling. So that's what I mean. We're looking all right.
Massage it in. It looks nice, man. It looks good.
Like it's easier to stay ready than to get ready. So I'd rather do that. Question from Steely Matt as well, who's actually sending some stuff over my way on Twitter. Did they do the black stripe removal when both of you guys played? How long has that been a tradition? So like you were there, I believe, when they instituted it when Urban got here.
Yeah, so we did not do it when we played. There's a lot of things that changed. Like we used to have, 6 a.m.s, and then now they're called mat drills. We never had a black stripe. They instituted that when Urban came in, just so like, you're part of the deal. We also did a lot of things back in 14 or in 12 that you would go to prison for now. So you definitely would be fired or written up some of those violations. But that's good, though. You push the envelope when you could.
With how you got
No, that had nothing to do with me. That had nothing to do with me. But anyways, that being said, it's a great tradition that they have. I'm excited that Ryan kept it because, again, you have to go out there and earn it. Everything is earned. Nothing is given. And Bill was talking about it earlier with the quarterback position and vetting those guys. But being able to compete and handle your business all the time is something that is trained and worked on all the time at Ohio State. Again, we're talking about, like, I know because I used to do all of the numbers, like who beat who in the grip, who has the biggest bicep of the unit, right? Who is running the fastest, winner or loser on the, the road bikes. Like all these different things matter. Who loafed, who didn't go +2. So not only did you lose, or maybe even not only did you win, but you don't get that win. He gets that win because you didn't finish the drill the way that we want you to finish the drill. All of it's documented. I 100% know this with certainty that 14 years now, Mickey Roddy has been here. He has all of them for 14 years. And go back, because guess what? Guys will come back and chirp at each other about winner or loser days 10 years ago. And he just, old school guys like, oh yeah, like he's doing a pen and paper, but he gets on the old typewriter machine here, and then like poof, David Copperfield pulls it up.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. Chris Kersey throwing out here, Will Sane or Lincoln, like Will Sane or Lincoln hit the portal if it doesn't appear they're going to be the winner. I don't think either one of them will be convicted enough to know if they're going to be the winner after the spring deal. And so then when you get to the fall, I guess you could sit out, but here's the reality of it. I don't think Lincoln would leave. Maybe I'm not positive about Julian, but getting a year of development from Ryan Day and this coaching staff and Fessler and Hart, and all the stuff that they do, that is invaluable. So that's a huge, huge deal that you can get that during the season and get some of that development. And then also the question was asked in their slides, what time is the lacrosse game? Spring game is at noon on Saturday. Lacrosse game is going to be at 2. You're not going to be back here for either one of those, correct?
Nope.
It's unfortunate because I'm going to try to definitely hit up the barbecue afterwards and get everything going. All right, that's it for our tailgate talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck right now. Go check them out at realtruck.com. Coming up next, we've got our parting thoughts for the Bobby Carpenter Show as our guy Schlegs closes it out. All right, Schlegs, we're up against you about 30 seconds.
All right, hey, put that on there. Body's changing in the Woody Lab. Put it on there. So, again, we alluded to it. Ethan O, they just said he dropped 30 pounds since enrolling and is down to 335. First off, he's 365 pounds when he rolled in here. I was just a hair shy of 270. I was probably weighing in at 265. 1 pound away from putting my hand in the dirt as a nose guard when I first arrived at Ohio State, Budweiser and chicken wings. But that being said, here's the thing. Now, I say this with all respect. It's not just
it
Mickey
doesn't mean
Marotti's.
you can say whatever you want, Ricky Bobby.
I know. But here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is all Mickey Marotti or all Mickey Marotti's staff. I don't ever want people to discredit where credit is due, and that is the guys have to want to come in and create a lifestyle change to allow them to do this and embrace the hard work. Will talked about it. He came in almost at 250, and then he was down to 235, and he's maintained that because that's where ideally he needs to be. Same thing with Ethan O. Same thing with all the guys that have come in, whether they're a freshman or whether they're a transfer. Like, they're looking at it, they're putting them in the best position. They just got to follow the plan, and he has, and a lot of guys do, and that's why they look the way they look.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for today's show. Coming up tonight, we got our final show of the week tomorrow, previewing the spring game, everything going on there. And we'll have some great players for you here coming up next week. So stay locked in right here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.